Today's guest is on a mission to redefine what it means to be a CFO. Jack McCullough is the founder of the CFO Leadership Council and host of the podcast Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. He's worked with thousands of finance leaders, helping them evolve from number crunchers to strategic powerhouses. In this episode, we explore what separates good CFOs from great ones and how today's financial leaders can prepare for the future of the role. Let's get into it. I have an amazing guest joining us today who actually has one of the top 10% podcasts going on in the world right now, which is super exciting. So hopefully I can learn a thing or two from him. Before diving into the episode, I do want to give a massive shout out to the team over at Universal Accounting. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Anyone who's looking to build the premier accounting firm, make sure you check out Universal Accounting and Roger Connect. They got a ton of great resources. They're awesome at what they do. We'll drop some information in the show notes. To our guest, Jack McCullough, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I cannot wait to get into your story and learn a little bit more about your podcast and what you're doing on your side. Thanks for joining.
No, glad to do it. And when you said you had an awesome guest and that I was in the top percent of podcasters, I thought you were confusing me with somebody else. But it's great to be. You know that for a fact. My podcast is within the top 10%.
That's what my research shows online. Yeah.
I
Secrets of
literally did not know that. So good for
Secrets
me,
of
I guess.
Rockstar CFOs, top 10%.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate your reaching out and allowing. I've been looking forward to the conversation for a few weeks now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Jack, tell me a little bit about you've had a remarkable journey. Founder, author, you're hosting a podcast now. I would love to dive into in your experience, what makes a great CFO?
It's you're perhaps familiar with the expression "horses for courses," and
I haven't heard that before.
oh, the idea it's in horse racing. Like
Okay.
there are some horses that, they're good at long distance running. There are other horses that are really good at the sprint. There are some that perform well on a muddy track. There's some that need a different class. So, there's not a one size fits all model for what's a great CFO, but there are certainly some qualities that are consistent across company sizes and regions and whatnot. But, if I were to focus on the most important thing. In fact, it's a presentation I give, and it's easy to remember for your listeners. It's CREATE, and it stands for collaboration, resiliency, empathy, agility, transparency, and empowerment. And where that came from, I reached out to a lot of people who are not CFOs, and I asked them, what are you looking for in CFOs? And it wasn't like good financial skills. It wasn't good technology skills. It was those leadership and personality traits, which surprised me. And, by the way, it was an open-ended question. So it's not like a pull down or multiple choice type of thing. They could write whatever they wanted. And literally not one person said financial aptitude. And these were like good people. They were venture capitalists, PE investors, people who are on public company boards, CEOs, other members of the C-suite. And they were really wanting the leadership and the communication and the transparency more than anything else.
Did those answers surprise you?
I was, they didn't shock me,
Okay.
right? Because I was surprised that not one person said finance or an understanding of the digital realities facing
Yeah,
CFO.
that might be a better way to ask it, I guess. Were you surprised that that didn't come up?
Yeah, like if I were to ask people what are the five most, I would have known for sure that many of those would come up. But I asked people for, what's the most important. And really, some people did give two or three. But yeah, it did surprise me a little bit. And then, I had to manipulate it because they actually talked more about team building, but that would be create. So I was trying to come up with a word that ended that started with E, that it meant teamwork. So hence empowerment. I kind of crammed that one in there to make the create framework. So, but it's an
Awesome.
easy way to remember it, when you're thinking about what do I do? Create. Okay, what do they stand for? Boom.
Yeah, that's great. And just for everyone, for anyone who's not watching and just listening, I need to address the Incredibles action figure behind you on your bookshelf. That is just, I mean, no pun intended. That is incredible.
Yeah, a free Jack McCullough bobblehead doll for all of your listeners, right? So
That's
But
perfect.
no, I feel like when people notice it, two things. First of all, it's for those who can't see, it is literally a bobblehead doll of me. I did not buy this for myself. My ego is not quite that out of control. At my last job when I left, this was a going away gift. And also, the head does look quite a bit like me, although I'm 10 years older. But look at the abs.
Yeah,
I can
but
only wish that I
that
had
must be
had more.
spot on though.
Oh yeah, exactly
Yeah,
right. I don't even know how they got a picture of my abs. I didn't know this is one of the Incredibles, I think.
yeah,
So I wasn't familiar with them. I actually put that up on when during COVID when we all started using Zoom. I picked it up and people started commenting. I said, "Wow, that's the greatest conversation starter I
yeah.
could ever have."
No, that's great. That's really cool. I would love to hear a little bit more about the community you built with the CFO Leadership Council.
Sure. And a little about us. I started the group. I myself was the CFO, and I just really wanted a network of my peers. And I didn't have much of a vision for it, to be honest. I was thinking we can get 25 CFOs to get together, 4, 6, 8 times a year, whatever it is, just to, commiserate a little bit, maybe bring in an outside sponsor. It wasn't that much more than that. I just wanted to learn from my peers. And it was one of those things, I guess I touched a nerve because without really trying, the very first program we had 60 CFOs come. And then, it sort of accidentally grew. One of my members moved to New York and we launched a chapter there. And then we did it in Philadelphia, and they were all pretty successful. And at that point in my career, I was actually working at KPMG and doing business development and great company, liked the job, good money. And so I had to make the decision, though, this was something I was becoming very passionate about. And so the classic decision of love or money, and idiot that I am, I picked love. So I've been doing it 10 years and we've grown to about 2,600 members. We
Wow.
have members on every continent, not Antarctica, but every continent that's inhabited. And, it's just been the ride of my life, and I tell people, like a lot of times people join for the content, and we do have really good content, but they stay for the community.
Yeah.
The relationships that have been formed over the years between CFOs, I've actually looked, I can't find anything like it amongst professionals like this. It's like we have an annual conference and it's covered by the, CFO press, like CFO Brew, CFO Dive, etc. And CFO Brew had a great quote about our conference. They said, "We set the world record for hugs at a financial conference." But it's such a tight-knit community that people look out for each other. It's just amazing what I sort of accidentally built here. So, along with a lot of other people, I don't want to take credit here. So,
Yeah, that's incredible. What gets you the most fired up about what you have created or, getting together with your community?
I think, what I like most is the opportunity to really work with the next generation of financial leaders. I'm 102 years old myself, as you could probably guess from looking at me. Actually, I'm 61. But like my first CFO job came during the dot-com era. And, I don't want to say I didn't deserve the job because, I think I was successful in it, but it was lucky that I was born when I was, that a lot of people were getting CFO jobs and a great experience and a great run at a relatively early point in their career. And so right now I recognize, yep, me and a lot of people like me, we did a good job with it, but let's keep this going a little bit. Let's make sure that the next generation of leaders has the opportunities and more importantly, has the skills and the contacts to take advantage of those opportunities when they come so that they can be successful. And that's what really excites me a lot when, when I can reach out to somebody who's say a VP of finance or controller and they have everything to get that CFO role, and I can help them get the role, whether it's positioning themselves, just thinking about a different way to solve problems, how to build relationships with CEOs, that sort of thing. That's what I love most about my job, the chance to impact. Well, they're like your age, but younger professionals. I don't mean that patronizingly, but
No, no, you're good. That's really cool. You've interviewed dozens of standout CFOs. You get to engage with them in your community all the time. What are some of the key traits of their mindset that set them apart from others?
yeah, and the roles change dramatically. Like I often speculate, could I be a CFO today? And perhaps I would, I'd have to change how I approached it and whatnot. But the best CFOs, they think like CEOs to a large extent. They've been talking about for a while how critical the strategic partnership they have with the CEO is. But what's happened in the last couple of years is CEOs now are reciprocating it. That, they used to say, well, maybe the VP of engineering or the VP of sales was the most important relationship they had. Now they're saying, no, the CFO is the most important strategic partner that they have within a company. That's a big change. And, so I've coined the phrase that CFOs are almost the deputy CEO, that the CFO role is the closest one to a CEO within the company, except for those 10% that have like a COO type of role. That's it's an important position, but it's largely vanishing because CFOs are taking on a lot of those responsibilities. So I think it's more the leadership and the partnership with the CEO and across the entire C-suite. That sort of separates the strategic leader from the historian. I got my first CFO job promoted from a controller. Still a great way to do it. The controllerships is a great farm system for the CFO role, but it's limiting if you approach the CFO role as a controller. You've got to approach the CFO role as a CEO.
Interesting. That's so valuable.
I came across as though I'm really confident, don't I? But I was kind of a mediocre CFO, so maybe I should shut my mouth and listen to other people.
You're probably being extremely humble with this for everything that you've built. I'm curious, Jack, your podcast, we spoke about it earlier, Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. It's doing amazing. One of the top 10 or top 10, it's in the top 10% of podcasts in the world, which is really cool. What are some of the lessons or conversations that you've been the most surprised by with the guests of your show?
You know, um, I, Not a lot has shocked me. Um,
Okay.
I'm probably a little bit difficult to shock a little bit. But again, the comments I made about the strategic partnership, um, I'd say a main thing that's comes up a lot is the great CFOs. For one thing, there's that humility gene. I never had it, but they can't seem to take credit for anything they've done. I praise them for the organizations they've built, and they're thanking their controllers, they're thanking the HR people, they're thanking the board of directors. I half expect some of them to thank their third grade teachers or something like that at this point. So the humility is really good. But the other thing is, like on mine, I do tend to ask, I don't want to say personal questions, but I'll ask questions about, their early life and, work-life balance and, just personal struggles they may have gone through if they're willing to talk about it. And I've been shocked a little bit about how vulnerable the CFOs are willing to make themselves during these conversations, because, it's not a gender thing, it's a CFO thing. It's not easy for them to make themselves vulnerable. I don't think they're, a tower of strength within their professional lives. But a lot of them, they do make themselves vulnerable. There have been a couple of instances, I've actually had to pause the recording because both of us are like near tears talking about our kids. I'm the father of two autistic adult sons, and we just went off a little bit on, the challenges of being a special needs parent. So, it's even though I have a lot of friends who are CFOs, I was a little surprised that people that I didn't really know before the process were willing to be so candid about their emotional sides.
That's cool. That speaks volumes to the conversations you're having and the guests you're bringing on the shows that you guys can get that vulnerable and open up that much. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, it is a reflection on them, not me, right? So
It takes two. Takes two
yeah.
to tango. Um, I want to speak a little bit about the tough decisions that fall on CFOs. When the pressure's on and data is limited, how do the best CFOs lead decisively?
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned data limited because that I didn't really know it at the time, but that's kind of the world I grew up in. Just, I didn't appreciate it until we lived in the world where there's, seemingly unlimited data. But data and AI type tools, they're not going to replace human judgment, common sense, intuition. They enhance it, right? When I see people that they're just data driven, that's great in some roles. But sometimes you sort of need that human element in decision making, and never let go of that. At least right now, and I don't have a crystal ball, maybe in 10 years, Gen AI will actually be able to replace common sense with people and intuition with people. But right now, it's a combination of data analysis and just common sense, listen to the man or woman inside, whatever it might be, intuition, taking advantage of, if you're a CFO with 25 years experience, calling upon what you've learned during those 25 years and support it within data. They go hand in hand. But yeah, they are, faced with difficult decisions. Um, you know, I don't want to say it was easy to be a CFO because that's unfair. But, in the 10 years before COVID, you had basically a very strong economy. The cost of capital was historically low. You had the advantage of the most well-educated workforce in the world. Globalization was expanding, so there are increasing opportunities. It was a glorious time to be a CFO because there's so many opportunities. But with COVID, and then seemingly every few months, some kind of crisis comes up, whether it be supply chain shortfalls or, talent shortages, rising interest rates, the worst recession yeah, it's probably not the worst recession, but bad recession. And, now learning to deal with tariffs. There's always a new challenge that's vexing to CFOs. And, with tariffs in the United States, at least, you have to go back to Jimmy Carter, who was our president from 77 to 80. Um, to learn about tariffs because we basically have been eliminating them for 4 decades. And I don't know very many CFOs who were CFOs in the late 1970s that I can call to as a resource, right?
Yeah.
So they've got to figure it out on their own, and these do impact people. So it's great because it's always challenging and changing. I'm not sure if I'm remotely answering your question or just babbling incoherently.
Sounds good to me.
Little of both.
Yeah, yeah. Column A, column B. No, it works. That's good. Um, you spoke a little bit about AI and how that's not replacing um common sense and that intuition that you have, that gut feeling. How much AI are you hearing in your community that other CFOs are implementing? How are people implementing it? What should people try to be? This is a loaded question. What should people be, using AI for within their day-to-day role, and what should they just really stick? Shouldn't get AI anywhere near it.
Yeah, it's a complex question. And for CFOs, it's harder than for other people, other executives, excuse me, be, for a couple of reasons. And partly it's cybersecurity, data privacy type issues, right? If you work in marketing, and I've worked in marketing, so I'm not slamming the profession, but privacy is not, it's not paramount, right? The way it is for a financial person or
Hmm.
an HR person. And in point of fact, some people would make the argument that, marketing people should intentionally leak their private plans because it creates a buzz type of stuff. And you might know famously, you know, early in Microsoft's history, it allowed people to pirate their technology because it made it ubiquitous. If there was a product that a little before your time called Lotus 123. It was the first spreadsheet. And for quite a bit of time, it was better than Microsoft Excel. It had like a 2 or 3 year head start. But Lotus protected its spreadsheet. Microsoft did not. So all of a sudden, everybody had Microsoft Excel on their
Yeah.
computer because they didn't try to prevent anyone from stealing it. And sort of the ethics around it weren't like they are today. And it was a brilliant move. And marketing sort of has that mindset. Let's just get the information out there. They're not flippant about it, but they recognize, hey, if we've got a new product feature coming out that's a real game changer, probably no harm in releasing it 6 months early. Our competition can't steal it and beat us to the market, so why not, right? CFOs can't think that way, right? They've always got to be thinking about data privacy. Hey, we have our company's credit cards. We have highly confidential financial information that we can't allow to leak before the next year's earnings release, next quarter's earnings release, et cetera, et cetera. So that's slowing down the adoption, rightly so, and whatnot. But that said, um, and I'm very pro AI if I'm coming across as otherwise. But somebody shared with me what I think is a brilliant quote because I asked, will AI ever be able to replace CFOs ever? and the person he runs Stanford Center for Ethical AI, and he said absolutely not. However, CFOs who embrace AI will replace CFOs who do not embrace AI. It's a critical tool. It's probably the most important tool in the toolkit. Uh, so embrace it. It's not for analytics. It's going to give your organization a genuine competitive advantage, and you need to embrace that. But as a CFO, you need to do it in a responsible way. So
That's so good. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. It's just how are you going to implement it for your best use case? But it's
yeah, and
people who aren't using it, they yeah, like you said, they will be left behind. They're already getting left behind.
yeah, it's I've seen it a little bit, and I have a friend. He's a barber, and you would think that would be maybe the least tech savvy operation, but he owns I think he might own like 5 barbershops now. But he's using it Gen AI in his marketing strategy and his staffing strategy, and when he opens up a new shop, he uses it to explore the best places to go. And he noticed that there are a lot of mothers are bringing their sons into the shop. Does it make sense to make this a fun experience for the mom, not just waiting type of stuff? Does it make sense to, offer services that moms would want type of stuff? So, barbershop, simple job, right? Once you know how to cut hair pretty well, you can probably be a pretty successful barber. But he's embracing AI and he's building sort of a local dynasty.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it moves so quick. There's so much to be to try to keep up with it. It almost is a full-time job, but there's a lot of really exciting stuff that can be done with it. We got a couple things in the pipeline that I'm excited about that we're hopefully releasing pretty soon. So I'm not gonna spill the beans on the marketing release just
Do
right
tease.
now. Jack, last question for you. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Professionally or in general?
Let's go both.
Okay. I'd say, geez, professionally, I would say the best advice is sort of to be true to yourself. And because I have a little bit of you've probably sensed it just from this conversation. For a finance and accounting professional, I have a little bit of a oversized personality. I've got a unique sense of humor, let me put it that way. And, I was told that's a strength, it's not a weakness. Embrace it. Work for companies where the culture is such that they would actually value a funny chief financial officer, a funny leader. It's disarming, it makes people like you. Don't do it in a way that you're clownish, but, just embrace your true self. And then the other thing is a boss of mine told me, it was actually pretty good advice. And, I was working for him. So when he told me at first, I was like, what the, why is he telling me this? But he told me to rewrite my resume every 3 months. I'm like, is he suggesting that there's going to be a layoff and he wants me to be ahead of the curve? But his point was do it every 3 months. And if you can't come up with something new, that means you haven't learned anything. So use the next 3 months to learn something. And, maybe 3 months isn't the right thing, but, I was like 26, 27. So I
Yeah.
needed to be always learning and growing professionally. So, just, it's a pretty simple exercise. Look at your resume every 3 months, job hunting or not. What did I learn in the last 90 days that matters, that's going to help me grow and become a better professional? So those are the things. And then the last one is just it's common sense. Maybe learned it from your parents, but just be nice to everybody. And it does tie into your career. And a friend of mine, she's a CFO. She shared this story with me. She works, I won't say who she is because she'll kill me, but she works in a state that does not have a lot of IPOs. So you've eliminated Austin, Texas, Southern Silicon Valley, and Boston and New York. But she works in a good Midwest state. She was the CFO for the only company that went public the year that her company went public, and it was a great success story, a great source of pride for the state that she lives in. And it was her first CFO job, and she took the company public within a year. And so she asked the boss after a while because she realized every CFO in the state, and by the way, she was pretty young at the time. She was 34, 35, I'm going to say. I didn't know her at the time. But she asked the boss, why'd you pick me, when every CFO in the state and a lot out of the state wanted this job? You could have had your pick of CFOs. And he said, oh, is your reference? I said, I know somebody you know, and I called and asked, and they gave you a good reference. And she said, oh, who is that? And this isn't the real name, but Mike Downey. And Mike Downey was a mentally challenged person who worked with her. She worked at one of the big 8 accounting firms, the big 4 accounting firms. And he grew up with the CEO of the company, grew up next door to Mike Downey, saw that she worked at the same company where he worked in the library. And he called his old friend and said, what can you tell me about Maureen? And said, oh, she's great. Everybody likes her. She's one of the nicest people that I've ever worked with. That put her over the top. So, so be nice, because who doesn't want to be nice, right? And I don't believe in karma or anything like that, but when you're nice to people, they're going to say nice things about you. And it's always going to pay dividends. It's going to help you build that world-class team, because people are going to want to work for you. Investors are going to want to put money into companies that you work in. Customers are going to believe you. So just be nice and decent to people. It pays dividends much better than anything else I can share with you.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Jack. So much knowledge, and especially the advice at the end. 3 amazing points. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the listeners enjoyed. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're looking to join the community?
Sure. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. It's Jack McCullough, CFO. I'm the bald guy, for those who aren't watching the video of it. And, if you reach out to me there, you can certainly text me. My phone number is 617-678-0957. You can email me too, jack@cfolc.com. For whatever reason, I'm pretty quick to respond to a text and reasonably quick to respond to email. Well, you reached out to me through LinkedIn. I think I responded within 5 minutes. So
Yeah, perfect. Awesome, Jack. We'll make sure those links and numbers and emails and all the ways to get in touch with you are in the show notes. I strongly encourage the listeners to get in touch with Jack. Check out his community. You guys are doing some amazing things. And again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on the show. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of CFO Chronicles, the secrets behind success. I hope you found value in today's conversation. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do 2 things. First, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please rate and review the show. It helps others discover the insights we share here. Second, if you're ready to take your business to the next level and attract the high-end clients you deserve, head over to accountingleadsnow.com or click the link in the show notes to book your strategy call. It's time to position yourself as the advisor your clients need. And don't forget, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to stay up to date on what's happening in the world of accounting and financial growth. We've got exciting topics coming up, so stay tuned for the next episode of CFO Chronicles. Until then, keep pushing forward. Your growth is just one strategic move away.
Thanks for listening to CFO Chronicles, the secrets behind success. We hope today's episode provided valuable strategies to help you attract more high-paying clients. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share with fellow professionals. Connect with us on LinkedIn and leave a review or comment to join the conversation. Your feedback helps us bring you the best insights in finance and marketing. Until next time, keep striving for success and unlocking your business's potential.